Welcome to today's explainer. Now, before we even start, I want you to do something for me. Just check your posture right now. Maybe straighten up just a little bit. Okay, now notice the flow of your breath. Are you breathing deeply, or is it kind of shallow? Take a second to really feel that air moving in and out. I want you to hold on to that active awareness because today we're decoding an ancient wellness concept called Swara Yoga. It's a science that views the breath not just as some, unconscious background habit, but literally as an invisible, highly active shield. Okay, let's dive into this. Consider the stark contrast the text draws between an uneducated villager and what it calls an artificially civilized city dweller. The villager, even without formal education or modern conveniences, usually has this robust, almost impenetrable health that us city dwellers often completely lack. So why is that? Well, the source tells us it's because the villager unknowingly relies entirely on nature's rhythms. They move, they breathe, and they live in absolute sync with their environment. The text asserts that human physical power is fundamentally a form of prana, or life force. So the closer we align with natural laws, the stronger and more resilient that prana becomes. Meanwhile, our artificial city habits are basically actively draining it away. And that brings us to a really profound realization from the text. It states, physical diseases are a sign that there is an incompleteness or weakness in the body. Diseases come inside us from the outside. Think about how completely this shifts our perspective. Disease isn't just a biological glitch or random bad luck. It's an active invader. Picture it as an external enemy meticulously searching for a vulnerable entry point, just a tiny gap in your physical fortress. It's this urgent, constant battle happening right at the perimeter of our well-being, every single day. The enemy is literally always at the gates. Now, what's really interesting here is how these invaders actually send us formal warning notices before they ever breach the walls. The text gives us some pretty clear examples. Dead rats signal the coming of the plague, deep body aches signal an approaching fever, and a sudden sneeze signals an incoming cold. Honestly, it's kind of comical how we routinely ignore nature's obvious flashing warning lights, isn't it? We wave off a sneeze or just push through an ache, totally refusing to acknowledge the siege until we're already flat-out bedridden. The text argues that disease always broadcasts its incoming attack. We just have to actually be paying attention to the signals. So how do we actually pay better attention and stop the attack before it takes hold? Well, let's transition into Section 1, the subtle shield, focusing on Swara Yoga and our internal defense. So, the crucial point here is understanding a concept the text refers to as Sukshma Chaitana, or subtle consciousness. According to the source, diseases don't just magically appear overnight in our physical organs. They first enter through this subtle nerve network, the prana sheath. You can think of this invisible, energetic layer as both the entry point for the invader and our primary, highly sensitive early warning radar system. If we can detect the disease right here in this subtle consciousness, maybe as just a slight shift in our energy or a really faint disturbance in our breath, we can forcefully throw it out before it ever has the chance to materialize into a physical illness. We're basically intercepting the threat in the shadows. But diseases are highly opportunistic. Much like true enemies in warfare, they absolutely don't attack when you're alert and ready. They wait for you to drop your guard. The text explains that these invaders most often strike when we're unaware, mentally distracted, or even asleep. That's exactly when our subtle gates are left wide open. However, the source emphasizes that a trained practitioner, someone who's cultivated a state of constant internal vigilance and is fully conscious of their subtle body, can actually block these sudden sneaky attacks before the physical symptoms even show up. They manage to maintain that shield even while resting. To really grasp how this relentless vigilance is cultivated, the source makes a super vital distinction regarding willpower and healing. It contrasts autosuggestion with self-suggestion. Autosuggestion relies on external forces. Think about healing others through mesmerism, hypnotism, or various occult sciences. And while those might have effects, they inherently require you to surrender your sovereignty to an outside influence. Swara Yoga, on the flip side, is classified entirely as self-suggestion. It's the rigorous practice of healing yourself completely from within. The text firmly establishes that true, sustainable, unbreakable control over your health comes solely from your own self-directed internal power. And this brilliantly illustrates the reality of the practice. It's not some instant magic trick. It's a rigorous, demanding discipline. The text explicitly manages our expectations here by noting that physical nature provides immense initial resistance to this kind of internal intervention. I mean, the body is used to operating unconsciously, right? So attempting to cure chronic diseases or rewire your nervous system through internal action is really difficult at first, and it requires immense sustained effort. But the promise is crystal clear. With persistent practice, this effort gradually yields complete, masterful control over sudden pathogenic attacks and even deep-seated chronic illnesses. You are essentially forging a shield of pure awareness, layer by layer, breath by breath.
Okay, let's shift gears now from the subtle and philosophical into the highly practical with Section 2, Shwas Vigyan, or the rules of breathing science.
The text lays down an absolutely non-negotiable biological rule here. On one side, we have nose breathing, which is nature's brilliant, built-in, highly complex filtration system. On the other side, we have mouth breathing, which offers exactly zero filtration for the lungs. The source is incredibly direct about this. The mouth has absolutely no material to filter out dust, warm up freezing air, or clean out incoming pathogens. None. By relying on the mouth, we're completely bypassing all of nature's defenses. So nose breathing is really the only acceptable method for maintaining the structural integrity of our internal fortress. Now let's see how this builds, because when we ignore that rule, we trigger some serious cascading biological damage. The dangers of mouth breathing aren't just theoretical. They are a mechanical chain reaction. First, unfiltered cold air hits the delicate tissues of the lungs directly, causing an immediate physiological shock. Second, this sudden influx of harsh, unclean air causes severe inflammation in those breathing organs, which actually weakens the very tissues meant to process oxygen. And third, because the nasal passages are left completely unused and stagnant, they become highly susceptible to disease themselves. By stubbornly trying to bypass the nose, we literally cause localized diseases in the exact systems engineered to protect us. Now, this anatomical reality connects right back to the deeper energetic mechanics mentioned in the text. You see, breathing isn't just about oxygen exchange. It's about managing the flow of your life force. The air we take in, which travels down and anchors at the navel, is called pranavayu. This vital energy absolutely must seamlessly meet and balance with apanavayu, which is the grounding energy situated from the navel down to the base of the spine. The text explains that the balance, or the disturbance, of these two specific energetic flows dictates our overall health. When unfiltered breath disrupts the system, those vital energies misalign, and the text suggests that a vast majority of systemic diseases are rooted right here, in this mechanical and energetic misfire between the incoming breath and our internal settled state. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct question based on everything we've just uncovered. Think about the exact breath you are taking at this very second. Feel the air moving right now. What air are you taking in? Are you consciously pulling in prana, the vital life force, through your body's natural active filters, or are you leaving the gates wide open for an invader? The choice, according to the strict science of Swar Yoga, is entirely up to you. Keep breathing consciously.